we appreciate you being here again. My name is Donna Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Purse Power. Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that promote women, and we would do that in mass, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what we're trying to do with Purse Power. And when the pandemic began, we started connecting female business owners across the country with each other, and we have so much fun. We've continued it. So I'm so excited to have Bonnie Marcus today here. She is a gendered ageism expert and the author of Not Done Yet. So thank you for being here, Bonnie.
Thanks for having me. So I have a question, first of all.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that a lot of the women are from Oklahoma City or from Oklahoma?
Correct, because that's where I am. Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we put on these programs every week, and again, we've had speakers from across the country. We get a handful of people attending the shows, and we get up to 1,600 people after the fact watching the program at their own whatever convenience. Okay. So you get people across the country listening to it, hopefully. All right, let's see here. So we are taping the program. Again, we've got all kinds of programs on our website, and this is done every Friday at 10 Central. You can always go to pursepower.com every Monday morning and register for our show that upcoming Friday. So I want to introduce Bonnie. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, and an executive coach. She assists professional women in successfully navigating the workplace and position and promote themselves to advance their careers. And this absolutely is the population that watches our show. We do have a lot of women in this age group, so I think they're going to find your topic very, very interesting. With 20 years of sales and management experience, her background includes being the CEO of ServiceMaster and a VP of sales at Medical Staffing Network. She's held executive positions in startup companies and Fortune 500 companies. She started her corporate career at the entry level, and her passion is now to help other women embrace their talent and ambition to step into their full potential and workplace power. She also does a podcast called Badass Women at Any Age. And I love that title. I love that title. You and Case need to connect. Case has written like 20 books, and she's an expert on podcasting, which I know you are already an expert yourself. Her first book, The Politics of Promotion, How High Achieving Women Get Ahead and Stay Ahead, was published in March of 2015. And Not Done Yet, How Women Over 50 Regain Their Confidence and Claim Their Workplace Power, was released in March of 2021. She's a certified coach, and she's been named by global gurus as one of the world's top 30 coaches. And she has been acknowledged as one of the top 100 keynote speakers in 2018 by Databird Research Journal. And then we'll go ahead and put her website and her contact information in the chat. So welcome, Bonnie. What a bio, my goodness. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for the intro, and thanks for the invitation.
Of course, glad you're here. Okay, so we always want to get to know our speakers. So could you please tell us a little bit about your background and how you arrived at this place in your life and career?
Okay, well, the bio covered a lot of the official background, but what most people don't know is I started out my career as a kindergarten teacher.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have a master's degree in early childhood education, and right out of school I got married. I had 2 children, and then I got divorced. So I had 2 kids, and as a single mom, I needed to support them. And being a kindergarten teacher just didn't pay the bills. So I was looking for a 9-to-5 job. And though I was turned down a lot for being overqualified, I did get a job as an administrator of a cardiac rehab center with about 30 docs. And I didn't know anything about business, and I mean nothing. I was pretty young and naive and on my own really for the first time, and had trouble even balancing my checkbook, let alone a business. But they taught me the business. Mm-hmm. And then in a year and a half, I was managing 11 centers for them up and down the East Coast. So that was my entree into business. I didn't go to business school. A lot of people say, wow, you were CEO of a national company. What business school did you go to? Probably Hard Knocks, right? So I definitely learned business on the job and worked my way into the C-suite. In 2007, I left corporate to start my own business. I took 9 months and got certified as a coach and started my business. Then it was called Women's Success Coaching. And with the passion really to help women create visibility for themselves, credibility for themselves, because I tell you, I had witnessed in my corporate career so many talented women being passed over. And they were passed over because not only were they invisible, they really didn't know how to put themselves out there. They didn't know how to understand the politics, how to promote themselves. So, I mean, that was the mission of my business from the very beginning, and to this day, actually. And since then, I really haven't looked back. I started my podcast. I think I'm close to like 140 episodes now. And it's amazing. Love doing it. I'm sure, you and Nan can chime in as well, but it gives you such a great opportunity to meet amazing women, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So you brought up a great point. Women over 50 sometimes feel invisible, written off, et cetera, in the work environment. Why is that? And what do you think we should do about it?
Well, why is that? Is that women tend to, first of all, believe in the meritocracy. So, I mean, if I'm going to start really at the basics here, and we believe in the myth that if we work really hard and we keep our head down, right, we will be recognized, that people will go out of their way to find us and promote us and support us. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen. People are too busy to do that. And so this is true for women at any age of their career, to understand that they really need to be intentional about creating this visibility for themselves if they have any kind of ambition. What happens with women as we age and we show visible signs of aging, we are viewed as less competent, less valuable, and we really become invisible. Part of that is, I think, that yes, there's a lot of bias in society, which is reflected in the workplace, but also we withdraw, because of our own bias, our own feelings that maybe we're too old to compete. Maybe we're too old to get that promotion. So sometimes it's a combination of the bias in the workplace saying, okay, you don't have any value anymore. And we're saying to ourselves, maybe I'm too old, to get that promotion, to learn new things. So we kind of withdraw. Also, in the hundreds of interviews that I did for the book, Not Done Yet, many women said they didn't want to bring attention to themselves as they showed signs of aging, because they were worried that they were so vulnerable because of their age that they would be pushed out. There was one woman who in the book was a VP in the fashion industry. She was 62. And she told me she had panic attacks. She'd wake up like 3:00 in the morning in a panic attack that people would find out how old she is. And she had Botox and filler and all this kind of stuff, because she knew that at 62, if she lost her job, it would be really, really hard to get another one. And she said to me, and then what would I do? So I think it's the combination of women not understanding the importance of creating visibility for themselves their entire career. And one of the points that I bring up in the book, Not Done Yet, is we need to be proactive. We need to understand that gendered ageism is real, and that we need to be pretty intentional about creating that visibility and credibility for our entire career, not wait until we're being sidelined, right? So, I think that is really an important point to make.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've done a lot of work with women on boards, and that's the other thing too, is you've got to be doing it the whole time, building the network, have that plan, make yourself visible, put yourself in the right place.
It's part of your job. And that's what I think we don't understand, is that, you have to do the work, you have to get great results, but you also need to be intentional about networking and promoting yourself, being visible.
Yeah, very good. All right. So in your book, Not Done Yet, who is your target market for that? Who's your target audience? Who are you aiming at? And what are you hoping that they get out of it?
Well, I would say the target is probably women 40 plus who are approaching 50 and are starting to feel the effects of aging, who have ambition, who really don't see themselves, retiring anytime soon or being, pushed out. But it really is a wake-up call, I think, for all women to understand that gendered ageism is real. This past year, I did a lot of research about gendered ageism in the workplace, and found that over 80% of the women, 730 women who participated, felt the effects of gendered ageism. But what's interesting, Donna, is 77% of women under 35 said they experienced gendered ageism. And and then the sweet spot is around 35 to 40, when women said only 60% said they experienced gendered ageism. And then when women hit like 59 plus, 88% experienced it. So we see it at every point in our career, because even if you're 35 to 40, and that's like the prime where you're only 60% of you are experiencing it, that's very often when we're, if we choose to be a mother, we're suffering from the motherhood penalty, where if we have to opt out, we lose our status, our salary, our income decreases, it's hard to get back in. So gendered ageism is real, and it affects us at every stage in our career. And so I think the book is a wake-up call for women of all ages.
Okay. All right. And Anna is asking a good question. So half of the audience is female business leaders, but we also have entrepreneurs on here as well. She's saying, other than career issues, what do you think are the biggest pain points for women over 60? Because we've got a lot of those folks in our audience as well.
Outside of career?
Yeah. So when you look at entrepreneurialism and building a business and dealing with customers and getting investors and things like that, that's another side of this in terms of the ageism.
Right. Okay. So I'm not sure I understand. To address entrepreneurs, or about how women over 60 feel about aging in general?
Oh, so what Nana's asking in general. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There have been a couple of really important books out that just came out recently. One of them is Breaking the Age Code by Becca Levy from Yale. And what I really love about the research she has done is that it really shines a light on how our own ageist beliefs and stereotypes not only affect our mindset about how we're living our life, etc., but if we have negative feelings about aging, it affects our cognitive functioning. it affects our health and well-being. And in fact, her research shows that if you have more positive mindset about aging, it affects your longevity up to about 7.5 years. So one of the things that I brought out in my book is that we can't control a lot of the bias in society. What we can control are our own mindset and our own mindset about aging. And I feel it's really important that we understand how powerful some of our beliefs are about aging, not only for like Becca Levy's research about how it affects our health, but just how we present ourselves in society. A lot of the women that I interviewed were ashamed, of their age, ashamed to admit it, were in denial. And for me, it's such an important thing to really own who you are, own all your experiences, own your history, and understand that brings value to our family, to our friends, to society, to kind of deny it and to feel that we're less than because we've hit 50, 60, whatever, really puts us in a place to be more vulnerable, to be pushed aside, not just in your career, but, in society in general.
Well, it's interesting. So I'm an executive coach also. And I work with people all the time on the stories they tell themselves and how much of an impact that has on their lives. So you've talked a little bit around the edges around, pardon me, the assumptions and the fears that women have. Can you be more specific? And then also, what do you recommend we do? If we have those fears, what do we do to countermand them?
Right. Okay. Well, for the first thing we have to do is to really be honest with ourselves and understand what are some of the beliefs that we have about aging. And I say that with a lot of compassion, because it's not easy to do, right? How do we feel about aging in general? How do we feel about our own aging? And then really take a look at some of those assumptions. First of all, challenge them. Is that really true? And then how did those feelings hold you back? Especially in the workplace, if you feel you're too old to be promoted, say, then you're not going to necessarily do the things you need to do to get promoted. You're not going to put yourself out there. You're not going to raise your hand. You're not going to volunteer for special assignments. You're going to think, oh my God, I'm too old. I don't want to join that team, or I don't want to be out there. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think a lot of these ageist beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. If we feel, and Becca Levy talks about this in her book, if we feel that we are going to lose our cognitive functioning, it affects our cognitive functioning.
Wow.
Amazing. And she brings up the point, even if you have a gene for Alzheimer's, if you have positive thoughts about aging, you can counteract the onset of Alzheimer's. I mean, it's amazing. I recommend the book to everybody. But like you, I will often tell my coaching clients to write down the story they currently tell themselves about themselves. And it really is an eye-opener usually. Not what you think everybody thinks of you, or no, but really that story that you tell yourself every day. And then take a look at it and say, is that serving me? Does that support my future, or does that sabotage my future? Because if it's not supportive, you have the opportunity to rewrite it and create positive affirmations from that story. Because we know that you can actually change the brain is very plastic, right? So you can change the neural pathways and actually become much more positive.
So is that what you do with people? Is do you have them take these statements, these negative stories that they're telling themselves, and do some other kind of affirmation, write it the other way? And how do you get them to do it?
I actually ask them to write the story that they're currently telling themselves about them. And very often, if women are really honest with themselves, and they do have a negative dialogue going on, it's very surprising to them that when they see it written down, there's something powerful about that. Like, wow, if that's really what I'm thinking and telling myself every day, how am I going to make it in this world? Is this really what I want for myself? So it's a powerful thing to write it down and then reframe it and write a more powerful thing.
Okay.
The other exercise that I talk about in the book is to write down all the battles that you've fought and won. Little ones, big ones, because we just take it for granted that anybody can do what we've done. And when we write it down and we look at everything that we've accomplished, it's mind-blowing. And to own all of it, right? To own all of it, because that is the sum total of who you are.
Yeah. No, you're bringing up a really good point. I mean, during the pandemic, I want to ask you about what you think women over 50 have to bring to the table after the pandemic. But part of it is our life experience. We've been through the wars, right? And we've survived and we've learned. And that's something that we bring to the table that the young people don't have. What are some of those other things?
Well, we do have a lot of experience. We do have much more perspective on things. One of the things that I've learned through doing research about women and people in this demographic in general is that even though we may lose short-term memory, we end up with more connections between the different lobes in our brain. And that allows us to have better inductive reasoning than we ever had. Right? We also have a better temperament. So when you think about, well, what's valuable in the workplace, isn't that something that a business would value, to have that type of inductive reasoning at the table? So, I mean, there's a lot certainly that we bring in terms of our life experiences. One of the things that, to me is mind-boggling is when all the focus started on women in leadership and, women need to be in leadership positions, et cetera. And a lot of companies develop these quotas for, they actually, if they were public companies, how many women are we promoting and retaining and all this kind of thing. And I was like, well, I mean, that's great. But for the most part, you're pushing out the role models and the mentors, the women 50 plus who have so much that they can offer younger women in terms of how to navigate the workplace, how to balance, or try to balance motherhood and parenting and work, all the kinds of things that we've lived through, we've experienced. And so I think it's pretty foolish when companies don't hold on to those kinds of role models for younger women to help them move through the workplace and to help them. One of the things that, and I can't remember the exact research on this, but when younger women enter the workplace and they look up and they don't see women in leadership positions, they only see older white men, they can't see a career path for themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is so much value that we bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we've got other people asking questions here. Do you think that if you keep quiet and try not to be seen, that is a way for an employer to determine you do not contribute to the organization? Therefore, you should not be in that position or not be at the company at all. Is that part of the self-fulfilling prophecy to sideline or even end a person's career?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tips that I mention in my book is to declare your ambition.
Mm.
And there's a chapter on that. What I mean by that is, sit down with your manager and say, look, let's talk about my career. I'm still invested in doing my best work. I'm committed to this job, to this company. And let's figure out where can I add the most value over the next 5, 10 years, depending on your age. But people assume that you're slowing down.
Yes, yes, yes. Yep.
And so you need to be more proactive to say, hey, I'm still committed. I want to learn new things, give me training here, wherever you think where can I add the most value? Because I'm invested. And I think that makes a big difference.
You're bringing up a really good point. So I did HR for 30 years, and they make assumptions about young women coming up that have families, that they don't want promotions, that they don't want work, that they've got to travel for, et cetera, and they lose out on opportunities as a result. So your point about speak up is a really good one about what you want and that you're engaged.
Yes, because the assumptions are going to kill you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I was thinking is do you speak at all about, staying up to date on your skills too? Because I think a lot of times they assume that you won't keep up. You don't understand technology. You don't know what's going on in that world. Any thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. It's super, super important.
Mm-hmm.
But also showing the interest to stay up, on your skills. It shows your commitment as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there are things that your company offers, to ask to be trained on a certain thing, or to get reimbursed for courses that maybe the company doesn't offer. I mean, there's so many ways that we can learn now, even online, master classes, podcasts, I mean, all kinds of stuff online. But I also recommend that, do some research and do some homework on your industry. What are some of the trends that are coming down the pike? And learn a lot about those trends. So you're on the leading edge. You're not in the catch-up kind of position. And then you might be in the opportunity, you have the opportunity within your organization to mentor or teach or coach others on that new skill that you've picked up. Mm-hmm. So not just playing catch-up all the time.
Yeah, and I just thought I was going to ask you a different question, but let me go ahead and articulate it this way. So we need to have other people understand what we're capable of. And often women have a tough time tooting their own horn around letting people know what they could do. And do you have any thoughts about that? Because I think we also limit ourselves in that way. We don't talk about our capabilities in a way that other people hear us.
Well, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Women have a very difficult time, women especially, because we think it's bragging and we've been taught to be humble and wait to be recognized. Well, if you wait to be recognized, that doesn't work terribly well in today's workplace or marketplace,
Mm-hmm.
for entrepreneurs. And so I've been coaching women about how to promote themselves since I started my coaching business in 2007. Which is why my Twitter handle is self-promote and my Instagram handle is self-promote.
Very good.
And I write about this a lot in my first book, Politics of Promotion, and also in Not Done Yet as well, that we need to recognize our value proposition. Mm-hmm. And the value proposition is how our work contributes to positive business outcomes. And once we understand that, it's not your job description, it's what is unique about the way you approach the work that gets great results. And once you do that, you see opportunities for you to help others reach their objectives because of the work that you do and how you do the work. And I mean, I've coached hundreds and hundreds of women on how to do this. And there's no hesitancy because it's not, hi, I'm Bonnie, and I'm terrific. Look what I did here and here and there. It's like, what are some of your challenges? What are you hoping to achieve? Because maybe I can help you. And then you connect the dots between how you get things done and what they want and need. Because for the most part, people don't want to hear about you. They want to talk about themselves. So if you start a conversation, especially, this is great in an interview, by the way, what is the company hoping to achieve? What are their objectives with this position? And then what do you bring to the table that's going to help them move forward?
Excellent point. Really good point. Okay. Nana's saying, do you think there's a technology gap for people, not just women, but they seem to bear the brunt of it, that contributes to them being replaced by younger women or younger employees?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also assumption about the technology gap, to be quite honest. Like, I've got kids, I've got triplet 21-year-olds, and they assume I don't know. Well, I've been working with computers for 40 years or whatever it is, I
know when I got, for years, I've had a PC. And I think 4 years ago, I decided to switch over to a Mac, right? So my laptop is a Mac. And immediately my daughter said, oh my God, Mom, you're never going to be able to make that transition.
Just watch me, right?
What are you talking about? I've got a phone, an Apple phone. It was a piece of cake. So yeah, there are a lot of assumptions, but again, there is research that shows that there really isn't a gap, that older workers, older people can learn the technology and function very well.
I love that. I need to get a hold of that article and share it with a few people. Very nice. Okay. Do you see the up and coming generation of women as being different from the ones that came before? And if so, how?
Well, I think for the most part, they expect more.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And if they don't get it, they don't hang around.
Right.
I mean, I remember when I first had my management position and I was looking to hire people and looking at resumes. And one of the things that we looked for back then was, well, they keep skipping around every 3 years. That was a red flag. Now, if you're with a company 10, 15 years, that's a red flag, right?
Right.
So I think the younger generation looks at their ambition and how their career plays out a lot differently than perhaps my generation.
No, I totally agree with you. My daughter is coming out of college and going into her first couple of jobs, and she's very demanding. She's good and she's demanding. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter as well. I think maybe 3 years she stayed in a position and then moved on.
Yeah, how about that? All right. So women over 50 often have a challenging time finding a job. Do you have any insights on that?
Well, of course, that's very true, right?
Yeah.
There is research by Urban Institute that shows that women 50 to 61 have, I don't know, like I'm going to forget the statistic. 18%, no, 25% less likely to get a job as somebody younger, a younger woman. But the point I want to make is the research shows that when you hit 61, it jumps up to your 50% likely.
Wow.
In the research I did, and in the interviews that I've done, it is very difficult. Some women have been unemployed. If they lose their job, or just starting to look for a job because they've been out of the workplace, they can't even get interviews. Very often they're told they're overqualified. Sometimes the assumption is that a company would have to pay too much, that the salary is too high. But yeah, the research does show that it's very difficult for women who've been out of the workplace, women who've been pushed out of the workplace to get rehired.
Well, and I think a lot of the women involved with purse power are independent consultants. There's a ton of coaches and consultants. And I think what's happened is maybe they've been pushed out, I don't know, or maybe they haven't been able to find a role. And so they've created their own. But entrepreneurship is becoming a big deal, I think, in our generation of women.
Here's a point I want to make. Not everybody has the resources to do that.
Yeah.
So in the research I did, the majority of the women said they don't have enough money to retire. And when I asked them if they want to, how they would rate their chances of continuing to work, they rated it very low because their company doesn't value older workers. So not everybody has the resources. They need the paycheck. They want to keep working. And the reality is that, the job market is not age friendly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so Julie is asking something about, Julie, I need you to expand on your question. It has to do with maybe employers saying something, you're overqualified, right. I think is what she means, is that's code for you too old.
It was a follow on to when you were talking about, they're saying women are too qualified for the job or whatever. Mm-hmm. So got me back. Is that really code for you're too old? We don't want your healthcare costs. We don't want all of those other things as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's true. And that is a myth. Workers over 50 do not have more healthcare costs, do not need more time off than younger employees. So, that needs to be debunked. But yes, very often, so many of the women that I interviewed have been told they're overqualified. And sometimes they hire two younger people,
Right,
so,
right.
When they say overqualified, maybe women aren't setting their sights high enough because we hear over and over and over in the research that women wait till they have every box ticked and they really are overqualified for the job because they don't have the confidence to say, I'm 80% there, let's go for it, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I also think it has to do with positioning. I think we need to understand the value we're going to bring, and we need to be very clear about how we're going to bring that organization forward. Not focus on, I've done this, I've got 20 years behind me, whatever, 10 years behind me, but focus on where you are now, the value that you can bring to an organization based on what you know about the organization and how you're going to take them forward. And I think that's a powerful way to position yourself.
Yeah. I'm asking everybody to come back on camera and go ahead and take themselves off mute. The other thing as a former HR leader is people blunting their resumes, not showing everything they know, not going back too far in history so that becomes less of an issue. I mean, even in the interview process, figuring out how old you are, you've got to do what you can to take that out of the equation, I think.
Well, you can do that on your resume, but I've had so many women who then show up on Zoom interviews and they say, and then that's the end.
Yeah, I understand. It's not fair. All right, guys, go ahead and speak.
You gotta own it. You gotta own your age,
Yeah.
But what should women be doing to get the confidence to do that? Any activities or ideas around building confidence to actually become that person who goes in and with your full credentials and your full story?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of advice in my book, not done yet. But I think part of that is something that we talked about before, which is what battles have you fought and won? You know, really look at what you've accomplished so far with a positive point of view. Not like, oh, well, you know, I was fired for that job, or I was, you know, demoted here, or what have been your life experiences as well as your career experiences? And honestly, if you do that exercise and you look at it, it's an aha moment. It's an eye opener.
Well, the other thing I do sometimes in my coaching practice is I have people draw their life as a road and take a look at the wrong turns, when they ran into a wall, when they went off the road, and look back and figure out what they learned from that. And you could do something similar, I think, to put a positive spin on what did I learn from that? How did I win? What did I accomplish? What did I achieve, deliver?
Yeah, another exercise that I do with my clients is I have them keep a success journal. There's something called the Velcro Teflon syndrome, which, you know, say you're driving home from work and you're thinking about your day, and chances are you're like beating up on yourself a little bit. Well, I should have said this. I didn't raise my hand. I didn't bring up that point. What a stupid thing I said in that meeting, or I did this. And so those kinds of negative things that we tell ourselves stick with us like Velcro. But if somebody says offhandedly, wow, you know, I really like that point you brought up, or good job on that project, that slips away like Teflon. So we have to understand the negative sticks, right? And becomes part of that story that we were talking about before. And all the good things that people will say just slides off of us. So one way to counter that is to, at the end of every day, write down at least one thing, even if it's a little thing that you accomplished that day. And then at the end of the week, review it and say to yourself, what does that say about me? What does all this say about me? And this helps you to build new neural pathways. You know, this helps you to feel more positive and gain more confidence.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, other questions, guys, or comments?
Just on that last one, you know, and again, Bonnie, thank you so much. This is so interesting. And one of the things is men are like, they make up their credentials, right? Like I'll say they embellish them. Okay. But, you know, if you are working and you come in, and so you're competing with people who actually are taught, I don't know if they're taught, I don't know what the secret world is that they're taught to do this, but they walk in and tell you things about what they've done with their lives that are just, you know, make them sound like whatever. And so, you know, we're always like, we actually have to do it before we're going to say that we did. and they're not. So I'm wondering, you know, is that something that you just have to ignore it and just, like you said, focus on what you could feel good about what you've done, and then so that you can walk into the room and actually speak to it?
That is such a good point. We spend way too much time looking at what everybody else is doing, and the comparison, you know, it will sabotage you. I mean, we need to focus on who we are, owning who we are, owning our age, our wisdom, our experience, all of that. As soon as we start looking, especially like on social media, everybody is a huge success, right? Nobody says, oh, I failed at this, or I didn't do this right, or, you know, very, very few people do that. So we have to understand that the focus should be on us in terms of building that confidence, not in comparison to what everybody else is doing. It's a good point.
Other points, guys?
I want to step in for just a moment. Like I mentioned earlier, I read Bonnie's book in the last 24 hours and found it power-packed with so many tips. And if I distilled it down into a nutshell, one of the big messages that I hear, and I'm curious to hear if you have anything more to say about this, is be on your own team, step into your own power, see the realities of what's going on out there, but be on your own team, speak up for yourself. let go of the habits of being too self-deprecating and things like that. I'm wondering if there's anything else you would add to that idea of really be on your own team that maybe hasn't been spoken to during our time together.
I think the only thing that comes to mind immediately is the last point we were talking about, which is, not spending all your time looking at what everybody else is doing. That truly you give your power away that way. And in the book, there is a chapter about giving your power away. And very often I will have my clients keep a diary, because we don't even realize how often we give our power away, whether it's self-deprecation, whether it's using qualifying language like, well, I kind of think, well, just maybe, we don't realize how we give our power away by the way we present ourselves, the way we let other people take credit for our ideas and things like that. So, it's in the book, but I think really keeping track of some of the ways we give our power away is important, because, it's like a leaky balloon.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a concept where you can either be liked or you can be seen as competent in the work world. And I think that we want to be liked more than we want to be seen as competent, maybe in terms of language. The other thing I was thinking about when you were talking is, when women act really confident, sometimes other women don't like them. And I don't know what we do about that. I think that we've got to get to a different space as women about each other. Do you agree with me?
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely need allies and champions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what you mean by too confident, because we also need emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and bravado and beating our drum isn't really going to help us very much.
Yeah.
Probably puts a target on your back.
Yeah, well, I thought your point about talking to the results, the outcomes, the business outcomes makes a ton of sense. Okay, what other comments do you have? And then I'm going to have to wrap it up from the participants here. Anybody else want to say anything, ask anything?
Well, I was just going to make a comment about what you were saying, Donna. Sometimes when a woman is too confident, it comes off as being cocky. Men can be cocky. And I think Bonnie's right. Sometimes if you overdo it, it just seems like it's too much. And I think it's hard having that balance when you're a woman.
Yeah. People have talked about that as a tightrope that women have to walk. And yeah. Okay. Well, Bonnie, why don't you go ahead and finish it up here with answering what are the top 3 learnings you want us to have gotten from you today? And then what are the top 3 actions you want us to take?
Top 3 learnings. That it's really important to understand what bias you have. And that's really the first place to start, to look at how you may be holding yourself back. What are those, what are those assumptions? Because that's what, that's what we can control. And 3 actions. So understand your value.
Mm-hmm.
Understand your beliefs and your bias and some of the assumptions that may hold you back, and speak up.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. All right. I've put up there some contact information for you. Is there anything you want to say about your book, where it's available? Anything you'd like to talk about?
It just won a Nautilus Book Award in the Aging Consciously category. So,
hey, congrats.
Yeah, that's a little self-promotion.
Very good. Very good. Can we get your book on Amazon, or where can we buy it?
It's available as Kindle, hardcover, and then it's also on Audible.
Okay. All right. Very good. I definitely want to read it. You're a wonderful guest. Thank you so much. You're doing something really important. And I really admire what you've taken on, because I think it's hugely important for all of us
Yeah.
as we age. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. I just want to let everybody know, upcoming guests, again, every fourth Friday of the month, we do a networking session. So our networking session is next Friday. Please tell your friends. And this is a chance for you to get to know each other across the country. People are building partnerships and relationships, finding customers, all kinds of things are happening in those sessions. July 1st, tentatively taken off, we'll see. And then I am bringing on a group that has helped self-published authors create audiobooks and market their audiobooks, and that's on July 16th. And then I'm working on a really important session on July 15th. Don't have that nailed down, so come back next week and I'll tell you who we got coming up. Any final comments from you, Bonnie, or anyone else on the call?
No, just own who you are, own the power of your age, your wisdom, your experience, and be who you are. Don't be apologetic.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. All right. Just want to remind everybody, we've got a brand new program where we're helping marginalized individuals, women included, to get into high-tech careers. We're taking the population of those individuals, putting them through training based on employers' needs. And it's a jobs and training program, both. Very important. They've put 5,000 people around the world through it, and people have gone from being very underutilized to making $100,000 a year within 3 to 5 years of completing the program. So I want to talk to employers that have that kind of need. Please do like and share our social media pages. Please let your friends know about this webcast every Friday at 10 Central. And just final comment here, remember, please, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Appreciate it. Take
Great
care.
meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Have a good week. See you next Friday. Bye.